Kingdoms come and kingdoms go, rivers run and rivers flow. By Dancing Lassie. Chapter 4. Jasker is once again unusually subdued come Beltane. He's had 8 months to try and forget what happened in Laird's Well with the Wraith, his other mother, and Alfred, the father whose hand he'd held, but who would never know who Jasker was. But the contract still haunts him. On the one hand, it's a relief to know that he had been wanted, loved for that brief moment before his grandfather snatched him away. On the other, his dreams are unsettling him with thoughts of what could have been. Would he have been a baker, like his father? Would he have sung work songs with his mother as a boy as he helped with the washing? Would it have been a happy home, a happy marriage 10 or 20 years after the initial adrenaline-fueled, lust-filled romance had cooled down into monotonous domesticity? Jasker has met many a man and woman who defied society to marry a love they claimed the world simply could not understand. Many of them years later seek the carnal excitement Jasker has to offer. Would he have been content to fall in love with a village girl, to settle down and father children with her, who in turn would do the same until generations down the line his descendants would claim they had always lived in fairyland and Lordswell had been completely forgotten? Or would the call of adventure had lured him away? Is there another reality somewhere where baker boy Julian follows his witcher across the continent? Is he also such a damn coward? Unwilling to speak his feelings for fear of rejection? He knows Geralt does care for him in his own gruff way, but Jasker doesn't think it's the way he so desperately wishes. The Witcher has noticed Jasker's melancholia, though, and no matter what he claims, Geralt worries. It's obvious in the way he looks after Jasker. New strings for his lute, more frequent stays at inns instead of sleeping on the cold hard ground, tickets for a play offered by a grateful client accepted instead of scoffed at. It's enough to light a rebellious spark of hope in his chest that he feels reluctant to stamp out. It's a relief to return to Sintra, and he makes his yearly excuses to Geralt a week before he normally does, anxious to get home. The Witcher has been asked by a group of merchants to negotiate with the Dryads for safe passage for themselves and their caravan along the edge of Brokilon Forest. So, when he waves goodbye to Geralt in the morning, he promptly ignores all the warnings to stay away from the forest. The Dryads know better than to arm him, and makes his way to the Vda. The river in question is waiting for him. A Dryad herself once, she is small and slender with chestnut dreadlocks tied up above and away from the faintly green skin of her neck. Unlike most Dryads, she has the same bright blue eyes of Jasker and the rest of their family. She gives her brother a small nod in greeting before stripping down to her bare skin. Modesty does not exist among rivers, and Jasker follows suit, stuffing his clothes into the satchel that he'd asked Mousak to make especially for him. He no longer has to worry about waiting for his clothes to dry before meeting up with Geralt. His bag and loot case are watertight, keeping his things safe and dry no matter how he chooses to travel. Vda enters the river fast, as it is hers, and Jasker follows after, ducking under the water without hesitation. He simply hangs there for a moment, taking the river in and enjoying the sensation of breathing underwater, even though he knows it is an illusion. No breath enters his lungs, but in the river he doesn't need any. He feels a tug on his hand and allows Vda to propel him downstream with her, picking up speed with the current and rushing ever faster into their mother's loving embrace. If he's slightly clingy in the lead up to the festival, his family accept it with good grace and do not question. Mama already knows why, and the others guess enough. Vda and Adelaide play endless games of cards and knucklebones with him at Mama's feet. Trava distracts him with impromptu wrestling matches and drinking contests, while Ina and Etta argue loudly about anything and everything whenever it gets too quiet and his thoughts threaten to turn grim. On his first night home, Mama calls him to her room. He lies on her bed, curled up into a tight ball by her side, just as he had done when he was small. She strokes soothing circles on his back, and he talks and talks and talks. He talks until his words run dry, and the weight that has been pressing down on him since the wraith has lessened. He dozes off, still lying there, as she banishes his bad dreams away. By the time Beltane has passed, he's beginning to feel more like his old self, just in time for his other sacred appointment. The guards do not stop him as he enters the palace gardens. Their eyes see, but their brains tell them nothing is amiss. He makes his way to the fountain, perching himself on the edge and dipping his hand into the cool water running in a steady stream from the lion's mouth. and waits. It's not long until he hears the pitter-patter of childish steps as they run down the stone cobbles. He waits, back turned, until the last moment before he whirls around and scoops into his arms the chaotic bundle that had been about to jump onto his back. Ciri squeals and wraps her pudgy little arms around his neck as she plants a wet kiss on his cheek. "Hello, tadpole," he grins as he spins them around. He sets her back on the ground so that he can spin her under his arm in the beginnings of a childish dig. "Not a tadpole," the 6-year-old princess laughs. "Tadpoles turn into frogs, and grandmother doesn't like frogs. One of the serving boys put a frog in a pot to startle the cook, but it escaped and got into her study. She was really mad." Jasker bets she was. He rather suspects that the unfortunate kitchen boy may now be short of a hand. Calanthe has not held on to the throne for so long after the death of her first husband by being merciful and kind. But there is kindness in Ciri, and Jasker simply prays that her grandmother does not mistake it for weakness and try to stamp it out. "How about being my lily pad, then?" "No! There's a girl called Lily grandmother makes me take lessons with. She's really mean to me. She deliberately spilled ink over my handwriting practice, and the tutor told grandmother I wasn't trying hard enough." "Well, Lily's likely to find a few frogs in her bathwater in the near future, then." "You're right. You're not Lily. Guess that makes you my Cyrilipad, then." The nickname is met with approval as Ciri bounces onto his feet so that he can waltz them around the empty garden. "Where's my present?" she asks. "Present?" "It was my birthday yesterday. You always visit the day after my birthday, and you always bring me a present. Where is it? Couldn't you come to the party on my actual birthday?" He huffs a laugh at the little princess's pout. "I'm afraid not. You see, it's my mother's birthday too, and I have to celebrate with her." "You can always come to my party. I don't mind sharing." What other response can he give but to lift her up high and twirl her around? Her innocence soothes the lingering aches in his heart, and he brings her down to rest on his hip, unwilling to let her go just yet. One day she will be too big for this. One day she will be a queen, and hard decisions will be placed before her, shattering any lingering naivete that she'd managed to retain. He reaches into the satchel by his other hip and pulls out the sought-after gift. It's a soft toy horse. Jasker knows Ciri loves horses, the same color as Roach. He'd bought it for that reason, despite Geralt poking fun at him for wanting a cuddly toy. The Witcher had been laughing the next morning when he'd woken to discover the toy cradled protectively to his chest, despite the bard telling him how adorable he had looked. Jasker had to save the poor toy from being thrown into the fire. Ciri loves it. She pulls it from his hands and crushes it to her and cuddles it tightly. "Thank you!" she yells enthusiastically in his ear. Jasker just laughs and hugs her tighter. But a strange urge overtakes him. It's one he's had before, but it's getting stronger and stronger each passing year. He wants to take Ciri swimming! More specifically, he wants to take her swimming in his own river! Months later, he can still remember what it felt like when Geralt paddled next to him in the shallow waters near the shore of the Bankrats. The moment Geralt's bare feet had entered his river, Jasker had felt it, a tingle that worked its way down the back of his neck, stroking down his spine in a parody of a lover's caress. What would it have been like to drag Geralt into deeper waters, to submerge him completely in Jasker, to cradle him with both the water and his arms? The thought never fails to steal the breath from his lungs. But he can't. Not while Geralt still believes him human. Geralt wouldn't understand the intimacy of the act, doesn't know what it would mean to allow Jasker such liberties, because in that moment he would be bound to Jasker for life. A few revelers have tricked a mortal love into their waters before revealing themselves. It has never ended well. Even the ones who had eventually reconciled has always had this tension that spoke of distrust between them. Ciri, he wants in an entirely different way. He wants to take her to his river and teach her how to swim. He wants her to trust that he will never let her falter or drown. He wants her to know that she will always have a home along the shores of his river, that he will protect her from all harm and banish all her nightmares. Geralt may not want his child surprised, but Jasker does. Wants to be more than the special friend who shows up once a year to bring her a birthday gift, sing her songs, and show her small magic tricks. He wants to be her shelter in a storm, her trusted confidant. Her father. But Jasker is not allowed to claim her as such, not until Geralt has done so. He recognizes Destiny's work and must acknowledge the Witcher's greater claim. So instead, he spends the rest of the day with the princess and they play in the gardens together. Come evening, he convinces the kitchen staff to set up a picnic for them and patiently wipes the fruit juices and honey from Ciri's sticky hands and face at the end. "Can't you visit more often?" Ciri complains sleepily against his side. She is 6 and will not understand the sheer amount of power it costs Jasker to ensure that the ever-vigilant queen does not think of her granddaughter's absence for an entire day, with the rest of the court on top of that. He can feel the strain of it beginning to numb his fingers and toes. "I have a friend who hates me. He gets in awful trouble without me. I can only trust him on his own. What's he get?" Ciri doesn't seem very impressed. "You sound stupid. You should stay with me instead. I could convince grandmother and Mousesack would let you stay in his rooms." Jasker doesn't doubt the druid would. He may have gone overboard in his warning to Mousesack all those years ago because the man makes little secret of his admiration. Occasionally, Jasker is tempted when his inability to cross that divide between friend and something more with Geralt has him heartsick and miserable. He wonders how easy it would be if he could just let it go and love someone who seems interested in something more. But he can't, and the druid has become a friend. More than that, not quite an acolyte, but more than an accomplice, whom he'll not abuse with false hope. He laughs. "One day you'll meet him, and you can decide how stupid he is for yourself." "What's his name?" Jasker hesitates, wondering if he should give Ciri the name of her destiny. "Geralt." He relents and prays that he has done the right thing. He squeezes her closer to his side and sings her a song to distract her from any more questions until she falls asleep. He waits with her warm weight against him as she sleeps until the familiar tread of Mousesack's steps can be heard over the sound of the breeze and the fountain. He gathers Ciri up and goes to greet his friend. Together they get Ciri to bed and she awakens only briefly when roused to kiss Jasker goodbye. "Shall we go for a drink, my old friend?" Mousesack claps a friendly hand on Jasker's shoulder, and if it lingers slightly longer than necessary, the river is polite enough not to mention it. Ina had given him a stern lecture when she'd heard what he'd done to the druid. "He is your responsibility now," she had scolded. "It's your duty to look after him. A small part of him will always be yours." Jasker had bristled at the scolding, feeling too much like the child she had put over her knee on more than one occasion, but had taken her words to heart. They slip into Auntie Irina's, ignoring the spectacle on offer with well-practiced ease, and let themselves into the women's private sitting room. The drinks are already waiting for them, as has become tradition. The alcohol flows long into the night, with the two friends regaling each other with the tales they have collected over the previous year. Jasker may skip a few details about his time by his river, but Mousesack is generous enough to let that go, despite his obvious interest. When the druid is not so much sitting in his chair as being held up by it, Jasker calls for Kate, and she clucks at them both before helping Mousesack up and hustling him off to bed. The bard strongly suspects that if the druid is not incapacitated by the hangover, then he'll wake up to a very good morning. As much as he may want Jasker, there is something going on between the prostitute and Queen Calanthe's trusted advisor. He stretches his neck and yawns and prepares to head back to Mama's, but before he can stand, the door bursts open and Travis strides in. He drops into the druid's empty chair and pulls out a bottle of his own moonshine from under his cloak. The mere smell of the stuff is enough to induce a hangover, and Jasker wonders if his brother is trying to kill him. "Drink up. We all know you'll be leaving tomorrow, so you may as well share a drink with your favorite brother before you go." "Favorites is not the word I'd use. Only would be more apt. Most irritating is also up there." Trevor raises a hand to his heart, pretending to be hurt. "That'll be nice, or I'll not tell you where that witcher of yours was last seen." "Trouble!" Jasker grits out through clenched teeth. His brother always knows where to poke. "You need to relax a bit, baby brother. The witcher is fine. The old man got word to us that he's just left Alendre and is heading west. You should be able to do most of the trip by river. Father Botar is more than willing to let you use his waters again." Jasker takes a sip of his moonshine to show his thanks and regrets it immediately. His eyes stink. The mood lightens, though, as Travis shifts topic to Ina and Etha's latest spat and the juicy gossip that while there are definitely some kind of relations happening between Adelaide and Ismina, they're not necessarily diplomatic ones in the strictest sense of the word. Jasker is feeling rather well disposed to his brother, reminding himself that Travis is not always a nosy prick. Except when Jasker's down his third glass of spirit and Travis done singing the praises of the triplets, his brother suddenly circles back to the subject of Geralt. The bastard has lured him into a false sense of security and got him drunk. Look, Jasker, little brother, I get it, I really do. Travis must have had a few before coming to find it because his words are already slurring and he's swaying forward in his seat to clasp a hand round Jasker's knees. It's not easy being in love with a human. Whatever. Don't growl at me, he's not really completely human, but hey, maybe that's good. Might help the whole, river god thing sink in better. Yeah. Jasker feels like his words are coming up his throat through a thick layer of cotton, muffled and far away. Except for the part where I have to explain why I've not told him before now. No! Travis jerks in to see. No. You don't tell, you never just tell, that's not how it's done. You just tell, and you're delusional. You got to show, you got to, I don't know, wow him with your amazingness. Jasker snorts disdainfully, but Travis drags him out of his seat while falling off his own, so that they're kneeling together on the floor. He places both hands on Jasker's shoulders, attempting to look him straight in the eye as they both sway alarmingly. You need to listen to me, Jasker, because I'm much older, so I know what I'm talking about. You're a chatty, egotistical pain in my ass, but you're also amazing, you see? And if your witcher can't see that, there's something wrong with him. Don't get what you see in him, but if you really like him, be brave, go for it. I support you 100%, and I'll keep the sisters from being if possible. He substitutes in the end, unable to find the original word he'd wanted. Jasker actually feels his face begin to crumple. He surges forward to wrap his arms around his brother and pull him into a bear hug. I love you, you moron, he mutters. Love you too, you dick. Travis hugs him back. The next morning, Jasker dives into the Yaruga with a new resolve, as well as a truly epic hangover. Somehow, he's going to open Geralt's eyes, make him see what Jasker truly is, and he'll tell Geralt what he wants from it. He may still have been slightly drunk, because in that instant, he convinces himself everything will be fine. Everything is not fine! For one thing, Geralt looks awful! He's standing on the edge of the pond now, throwing his net into the river and hauling it back repeatedly. He looks even more disheveled than usual, and Jasker can see the tension that riddles his tall frame from the water. Jasker quickly emerges downstream and throws on his clothes in a hurry, not bothering to dry off properly first. His shirt clings uncomfortably to his chest, and the leather of his boots chafes against his wet feet, but he pays it no mind. Not even bothering to attempt to fasten up his doublet, he strides up the side of the river towards the witcher. Geralt! He tries to sound cheerful, hoping to distract his friend. Fancy seeing you in. I heard you in the area. Geralt doesn't even turn around to look at him. How am I hear you ask. Well, my brother is officially dead to me. The scoundrel had the audacity to get us drunk, whereupon he threw up copiously in Mama's embroidery box and had the cheek to blame me. Also, it's been 3 days and I think I'm still hungover and starving. I don't suppose you fancy sharing a fish with your very best friend? I'm sure I can help you catch a few pike if that's what takes your fancy. I'm not fishing. Geralt finally decides to speak to him. I can't sleep. That explains absolutely nothing. Old Father Bontar, it appears, had forgotten to mention in his message of Geralt's whereabouts that the Witcher has completely lost his marbles! Right, good. Well, that makes sense, in so much as it sort of doesn't. What's going on, Geralt? Talk to me. A jinn. I know! Geralt puts his hands up. Oh, no. Bad idea, Geralt. A jinn. Are you serious? No, you can't, Geralt. The Witcher ignores him, throwing his net into the river again. Come on, Geralt. What can you possibly need a jinn for? There are easier ways to get what you want. I can't fucking sleep. Geralt whirls around to shout at him, and Jasker can see the dark circles under his eyes and the extreme tension in his jaw. He looks exhausted.
Come on, Geralt. Jasker tries to speak more softly this time. You don't need a jinn for that. We can set up camp, eat some fish, and I'll play for you, and hundreds of lullabies. They'll send you straight to sleep. Though I'm afraid you'll have to do without that cuddly toy. I bestowed it upon its rightful owner when I visited Mama. That's not going to help. Geralt growls. Your singing will do fuck all. It'll be like taking a cheese grater to my brain. Ouch! That hurt! You! Jasker hisses at it furiously. Need a nap! So much for today being a day of heartfelt confession. Are you trying to hurt my feelings, Geralt? It's... He trails off as Geralt fishes something out of his nets. Whatever it is, Jasker can feel it from where he's standing, and it is angry! Geralt's holding some kind of clay amphora, and Jasker knows he cannot let him open the seal on top. Bad things will happen. He knows jinns are extremely powerful air elementals that are essentially being squished down into a bottle, unable to be free until they've been released and granted 3 wishes to whatever fool releases them. If someone were to do something similar to Jasker, he'd be furious too! He grabs the amphora, fully intent on throwing it back into the river and banishing it downstream all the way to Oxford and out to sea. Geralt grabs hold of a handle. No, this is a bad idea, Geralt! Give it back. No, let go! Jasker, I'm warning you. They're tugging it backwards and forwards between the two of them, yelling all the while Jasker feels himself jolt backwards. He still has the amphora, but the top has come off. Oh shit! For a moment, they both stand there, and nothing seems to happen. Jasker desperately hopes that this means they're safe, and then a breeze picks up and he can feel the jinn swelling in the air around them. One powerful elemental force recognizes the other, and Jasker can feel the sheer rage that the jinn gives off at the sight of him. How must it appear to the elemental, powerful and old as it is, to be let loose from its tiny prison only to come face to face with the baby river that is Jasker? How galling to know that he must be granted 3 wishes before the creature can truly be free. He needs to act fast. 3 quick, easy wishes for the jinn to grant so it can fly away, can escape from the clutches of those who wish to abuse its power. Right! Jasker hates the way his voice cracks slightly. I'll make this quick, no need to hang around. First, I wish for Mama to get new embroidery threads of a large variety of pretty colours delivered to her this day. Second, I wish for my brother to be impotent for the next 3 months. Third, Jasker, stop! A hand pulls him away from the river by the back of his doublet before he can utter his final wish. There are only 3 wishes. Geralt growls at him. Oh, come on, you always say you want nothing from life. So how was I to know you wanted 3 wishes all to yourself? I just want some damn peace. Geralt yells in his face, pushing Jasker into the tree behind him. The amphora slips from his hands and shatters against the ground. Geralt is on the ground immediately trying to gather the pieces, but Jasker has big problems. He can feel the jinn expanding, gathering more of its power to itself, and it seems to be focusing on Jasker. He must have taken too long. He tries to get his 3rd wish out quickly, hoping to appease the jinn, but his throat is burning. Something in it is expanding, cutting off his airflow. Something hot and wet is sliding down the inside of his throat. Blood, he realizes. Geralt! He gasps, desperate. The Witcher looks up and sees Jasker clawing at his own throat, and realizes that the bard's been attacked. He shoots aside at the jinn, sending it ricocheting away. Jasker sinks to the ground, wheezing. Jasker. Geralt is beside him, holding him up as he vomits blood. The river. He needs to get into the river. He tries to stumble towards it, but he can't catch his breath, and oh gods, he's drowning! This can't be happening to him! Not again, not after the first time! He doesn't make it 2 steps before he passes out. Jasker is a dead weight in his arms as he canters towards Rinde. Geralt has him sitting backwards and in front of him on Roach, so we can feel Jasker's breath wheezing out against his neck. Proof that the man is still alive, that Geralt is not too late to fix this. Ciri and the elf healer at the camp had been unable to help them, but had urged Geralt to seek the mage being held in the town. Jasker starts to slide sideways, and Geralt has to grip him more tightly to keep them both on Roach as they speed towards the mayor's house. Why does he always have to be so touchy to the bard? Why can't he just admit they're friends, that he likes Jasker's company and enjoys his singing? Geralt had wintered at Kermoren that year, and by the time he met up with Jasker, they'd only been able to spend a couple of weeks together before the bard had to leave to get to his annual family party. Geralt wishes that he hadn't hoped for an invitation, but after traveling with Jasker for so many years, he can't help but notice that his family is the one topic Jasker never willingly shares with him. Geralt supposes he understands. Witches and families don't go hand in hand, and it isn't like Geralt has ever expressed any great delight at being at any of the parties he and Jasker have attended before. But it stings that Jasker has this portion of his life where Geralt's not welcome, especially when the bard seems willing to share everything else with him. He could feel something wet slide down his neck, and by the smell, it has to be blood. Jasker doesn't have time for Geralt to sulk, and he wastes none as he knocks out the guard, swings himself off Roach, and carries Jasker inside. There's a naked man in the kitchen looking for apple juice. It only gets weirder from there. Despite what some of Jasker's songs may proclaim, orgies aren't a common occurrence in Geralt's life. He's not exactly a tactile man, and all the naked bodies he now finds writhing around him make him distinctly uncomfortable. A naked man and woman try to draw Jasker off Geralt's shoulder, pawing at his doublet. Geralt turns to growl them away, tightening his hold on the bard's legs. The mage had to be the only other dressed person in the room. The woman watches the entire proceedings with a kind of detached interest, at least until she sees Geralt, and then violet eyes look him up and down with fascination.
I brought you apple juice.
He and the sorceress Yennefer trade barbs back and forth. She seems delighted that he's a witcher, and part of him enjoys her curiosity, that of a very beautiful woman. However, Jasker is still tossed over his shoulder, and his breath is becoming shallower. Now is not the time to discuss professional tricks. He needs her to fix his friend, whatever the cost. He's banished to the kitchen after depositing Jasker on a bed upstairs, and the sorceress refuses to let him see the bard until he's bathed. He's not expecting her to join him, to let him catch even a small peek at her naked form. It's been too long since a gorgeous woman has chosen to flirt with him, and now that the immediate danger has passed, he allows himself to enjoy it. The pleasant warmth of the water and the way her bare back will occasionally brush against his is almost enough to put him in a good mood. Appropriately clean, Geralt makes his way to Jasker. He hears him before he sees him, and that grating, wheezing sound is gone as the bard breathes normally now. He's lying on the bed barefoot in just his shirt and trousers. Blood still stains the front of his shirt, and Geralt wishes he'd thought to grab a spare one from the bard's bag. He dislikes having the proof of what had almost occurred shoved in his face. Metal bands around Jasker's wrists catch the candlelight.
What are these?
He questions Yennefer. Magic bands to speed up the healing. Why, do you doubt my capabilities?
No, just your intentions.
Jasker is dwarfed by the large bed. It doesn't suit him. He normally fills whatever space he's in with his sheer presence.
I said some things to him.
He admits to Yennefer. He's not sure why, but this little niggle of guilt has been knocking around his brain, and it helps to let it out.
He's
And why, after everything, can he still not just say it? Why does he have to be so bad at this? A friend? Yennefer suggests, gladly amused. Geralt's not too fond of the mocking smile she graces him with.
I'd like it not to be the last thing he remembers.
The sorceress has a strange glint in her eye, like she's part of a joke no one has yet let Geralt in on. It won't be, she smiles. They trade barbs once more, and Geralt finds that he enjoys it. He likes the challenge she offers and the way she pushes her wits against his with no fear. He thinks she may be winning this game. His head is getting very fuzzy. He realizes she's after the jinn, that she needs Jasker to make his last wish.
The jinn will fight you,
he warns, and isn't it ironic to be warning her against this when Jasker had done the exact same to him hours before?
If you try and bend it.
Something is definitely wrong. His senses are going haywire, sight and hearing diminishing as his nose grows sharper. There's a pleasant scent in the air that he struggles to put a name to.
Lilac and...
he mutters. Gooseberries, Yennefer breathes. When did she get so close to him? Tough to get in your head. And she sounds almost impressed. You have a strong will, but you can't contend with me. Sorry that I couldn't be more direct, but I knew you'd fight it. She reaches up and kisses him, soft lips against his chapped ones. The world fades away. When he awakes, there's a knife pressed against his balls and a terrifying half-naked woman holding it. Jasker tries not to move, his whole attention fixed on the knife point. He can feel almost scratching the sensitive skin. He can honestly say he's never been in this situation before. Do you wish me to put this away? The woman asks. Violet eyes gaze intently at him, displaying no mercy or pity.
Yes, that would be wonderful, most certainly. That is a wish I would very much like granted.
He sighs in relief when she removes the dagger from the vicinity of his crotch, but she doesn't release it.
She's looking at him like the cat who caught the very fat pheasant.
What a good little river spirit you are. She grins down at him, and Jasker knows enough to be very afraid. This woman is a sorceress, and she knows what he is.
She flows off the bed to kneel by a chalk drawing on the floor, and Jasker tries to make a run for the door. She chants something, and he collapses before getting halfway there, his wrists burning.
Iron! She's bound him with iron! He could feel it dampening his power, even as another spell drags him practically into her lap. Let go! He tries to fight her off, but he's weaker than a babe.
Imagine my surprise,
she whispers as she looks down at him with a kind of horrifying awe.
When the Witcher handed me not just one powerful elemental spirit on a silver platter, but two. You're going to help me catch a jinn, little river god, and then you and it are going to give me everything.
The dagger stabs into his shoulder, and he screams. It's not just the cuffs. The dagger is also iron, and he can feel it burning him from the inside out. The witch is chanting in Eldar, but Jasker can't make it out over his own screams. He can feel it, though. Feel her link his power to hers, bind him to her will. The jinn is being dragged towards them, and it's screaming, too. It doesn't want to be bound any longer, and Jasker can empathize. He wants to reach out to it to help it, but he can't. The witch is sapping who Jasker is from it, and it hurts! It hurts so much! The jinn is fighting back, and Jasker feels almost torn in two as his power is forced against the other spirit, water and air, fighting each other for dominance. Far, far away in the mountains by the border of Aedirn, a storm is brewing. Wind lashes against the water of the river, and the current picks up speed as the Pankretz bursts its banks. The inhabitants of the settlement along the river look at the storm raging above the mountains in alarm. Children are ushered inside as people prepare for the floods that are sure to come. Geralt storms toward the mayor's house, Ciri hot on his heels. Yennefer has tricked him, drugged him, and sent him loose on her enemies to enact her vengeance. It might have amused Geralt to see the sexist pigs in charge of this place take it out a peg or two if she hadn't forced him to do it without his consent. She'd obviously been distracting him from her pursuit of the jinn, but they both had it wrong. Jasker isn't the jinn's master, it's him! He needs to get to her before she persuades Jasker to make a wish. If she tries to catch the jinn while he's still bound to a master, it could tear her and most of this town apart.
Stay here,
he tells the elf before striding inside. It's obvious that he's too late. He can hear the wind and the smashing of furniture from the bottom of the stairs, but Jasker is still in there. Yennefer as well, and no matter how selfish her intention, she'd still healed his friend. The door to the room has been blown off, and Yennefer is sagging in the middle of the storm, obviously exhausted by the effort to tame a still-bound jinn. Jasker is unconscious, face first in her lap, and his body trembles and jerks even as she tries to keep a hold of him. She raises a hand as he moves toward them.
I'm here to help,
he protests. She takes a deep breath, and Geralt can see she's about to chastise him, but her back arches and cracks sickeningly. Jasker's groan is muffled against her side.
The jinn isn't weakening, she groans. The bard expressed his last wish, but it's getting stronger. Go!
She screams in agony, and Jasker's voice joins her own as he rots on the floor. What's wrong with him? The jinn is battering against Geralt as well, not allowing him to get closer.
It's because I'm the one with the wishes,
he admits, and she looks at him with such betrayal. She screams at him to make his last wish, throws him against the wall. The house is beginning to shake, the foundations giving way under the jinn's onslaught. If he doesn't think of something, they'll all be buried alive. He can't just make a wish. The jinn is determined to destroy the sorceress and will rip her apart the moment it is free, most likely killing Jasker in the crossfire. He must find a way to protect them both, use his last wish to save them all. He looks up at the ceiling where he could just about make out the shadow of the jinn and makes his final wish. The wind dies as the jinn flies away, unable to enact its revenge. Yennefer falls forward, crouched over Jasker, panting.
The jinn, where did it go?
The ceiling creaks, and they both look up just as the ceiling starts to fall. Geralt only has a split second to think before he dives toward them, throwing them both into the portal Yennefer manages to conjure. By some miracle, they land on one of the couches used in the previous night's orgy. The wind is temporarily knocked from Geralt's lungs, and he stares at the ceiling in disbelief that he's still alive. He turns his head and is met with a mouthful of black hair.
Yennefer.
He touches her face, trying to determine if the wish has worked, if she's still alive.
What did you do?
She snaps. No thanks offered for saving a life.
You stopped me and let the jinn get away. Who knows what havoc it'll wreak now that it has no vessel at all?
No more havoc than you.
Geralt shoots back, and he can't help but enjoy her fire, her bite.
And jinns are only dark creatures when held captive.
How can you be so sure?
When did you last feel happy when you felt trapped?
And suddenly they're kissing, falling backwards onto the couch before she rolls them off so she can straddle him. Her hands are wrestling with the ties at his trousers when a low groan breaks them apart.
Jasker.
Geralt practically throws Yennefer off and furious with himself for forgetting his friend in the heat of the moment. The bard had obviously slid across the room when he landed and is half visible behind a couch a few feet along from them.
Jasker.
Geralt calls again as he reaches his friend, pulling at him to turn him onto his back. There's a dagger protruding from his shoulder, and even more blood is staining his shirt.
The bitch stabbed me, Geralt!
Jasker moans, eyes screwed shut in pain.
She stabbed me! You need to take it out, Geralt. Take it out! I can't, Jasker. There's a healer outside.
He's already drawing his sword, ready to strike if Yennefer moves any closer, but she's simply observing them from where he left her.
Iron! Geralt! The bitch got me with an iron dagger. It's poisoning me. You got to take it out!
He's gasping like a fish out of water, hand jerking to pull his shirt away from the wound. The veins around the dagger are turning black, spreading towards his heart.
What have you done?
Geralt turns to snarl at Yennefer.
River!
Jasker pleads, drawing Geralt's attention back to him.
What? You need to take me to the river! Please! I don't understand.
Geralt admits.
How will that help?
He's an answer, you moron!
Yennefer pipes up.
A river spirit! You need to remove the dagger and put him in the water.
Jasker's a what? He looks at the bard, but he looks as he always does, except even more horribly vulnerable than usual. He's trying to grip Geralt's free hand, and Geralt gives it to him without a second thought, trying to lend his strength to his friend.
You did this to him.
Geralt growls at the sorceress.
And you can either stay here and punish me for it or save your friend. You can't do both.
There was only one choice he can make. He sweeps Jasker up into his arms and runs for the river. He sets the bard down carefully on the bank. Jasker's skin is getting colder and clammier. His eyes are rolling in his head and his lips are taking on a bluish tinge. Geralt is not convinced this is a wise course of action, but he pulls the dagger out, tossing it aside. Jasker lets out a hoarse yell as his back arches off the ground, and he throws his head to the side to vomit up black bile. It dribbles down his chin, mingling with the blood from before. Geralt raises his hand in an attempt to wipe it away. He only succeeds in smearing it across Jasker's jaw.
What do I do now?
He asks, and Jasker lolls uselessly on the grass as he stares at Geralt's arms with unseeing eyes.
Jasker.
Geralt shakes him.
River.
The bard gasps.
I need in the river.
So Geralt pulls him into his arms once more and wades into the Montar. He wades in up to his waist and carefully lowers Jasker into the running water. The river is clear enough that Geralt can make out his form below the water. Jasker's eyes are closed and the grim line of his mouth relaxes slightly. He shudders in Geralt's arms, and then it's as if he merges with the water, becoming transparent and lighter. The Witcher is just able to make out the shape of him, and then he vanishes, flowing with the current downstream. It'll be over 2 years before Geralt sees Jasker again.